Hey, you know what I think one of the most dangerous things could be for like a P plate driver, someone that's brand new to driving? A curfew. I think a curfew could be one of the worst things that we could give a P plate driver, right? That's mainly for the weekends. If if during the week, right, typically you don't want to stay out too late because you got work the next day, so you're not going to worry about staying out too late. But if you're still living at home with parents and they say you have to be home at 10, what happens, I don't know about you, but with me and a lot of people that I know, we all suffer from the 5-minute syndrome. Right? You got to be home by 10, and then you look, it's like 9:57. Okay, I got 5 minutes, no matter how far away your house is. We all suffer from that 5-minute syndrome. Maybe it's not with driving, like it happens in so many areas. You're too old to have a curfew if you're an adult, right? You don't have a curfew. Maybe your wife gives you a curfew, but most of us, we don't actually have a curfew, but we've experienced this in some sort of dynamic as an adult. When your margin for error was so gobbled up with just 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Maybe you're working at work and you know you got to be home by 5, but you just want to wrap up this email, just 5 more minutes, and then I'll still have plenty of time to get home, even though it takes 5 minutes to get from your office to your car. We still say we have 5 minutes. Maybe it isn't actually with time, but maybe it's just that one more thing. Just one more thing. One more drink, I'm fine. One more drink, I'm fine. One more sleeve of cookies, I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll be fine. One more pair of shoes. I know I've got 10 in the closet, but what one more could hurt? One more swipe of the card. I know my credit card is like almost maxed out, but just one more swipe. Whatever it is, the outcome is always the same because you know this, one more rarely adds anything. When we get stuck in that one more situation, one more rarely adds anything. In fact, it does the opposite. One more often subtracts something. Yeah, I always, like with my son William, he says, "Dad, just one more jump off this chair onto the ground." I'm just thinking, oh, that last one is going to cause the injury, right? Just the one more syndrome rarely adds anything. It often subtracts, and it subtracts what we value the most. And while it's been a while since a curfew dictated your driving habits, your current driving habits are in fact influenced by this one more syndrome, by a similar dynamic. Unless you're a slightly unusual driver, right? We often drive, if the speed limit says 60, maybe I'm wrong about you, you might go 65, right? You might go 66. If you're in a hurry because you've said 5 more minutes, maybe you'll go 67. Whatever it is, because what we want to do is we want to get so close to the line of what is illegal, but we're okay breaking the law as long as it doesn't mean we're going to encounter the law, right? We're okay breaking the law, but you go, okay, I feel fine about this, that if a cop sees me, they're not going to pull me over. I'm going to break the law still, but I'm not going to encounter the law over what this speed is. So what's my point? Whether it's curfew, whether it's your diet, whether it's driving, whether it's spending, whatever it is, we want to live as close to the line as humanly possible. What line is that? Well, it's the line between legal and illegal. What's the line? It's the line between responsible and irresponsible, moral, immoral, ethical, and unethical. We want, as human beings, human nature is try to live as close to that line as we can. It's the I'm still in control and I need help. It's a human nature to snuggle up to the edge of irresponsibility, disaster, and embarrassment and stay there as long as we possibly can. It's human nature to get by with as much as we can get by without becoming our own worst enemy, or without being grounded, without being embarrassed, without being expelled, without being fired or kicked out of the house. Right? This flawed assumption, what does it do? It fuels this flirtation with disaster informs so many of our decisions. It's an assumption that impedes our ability to make good decisions. This assumption is why we're so comfortable living or dating and spending, eating, drinking, and driving on the edge of embarrassment or worse. And so for the sake of clarity, I'll illustrate it with these 4 contrasting ideas. The assumptions that we live with: if it's not wrong, it's all right. Okay? If it's not illegal, well, then it's got to be permissible. If it's not immoral, it's acceptable. If it's not over the line, then it's fine. If this doesn't just shout at you a problem, I'll make it even more clear for you. Put on your big brother, your big sister hat, your parent hat if you've got kids. What we're doing is, you would never set the bar so low for your children, or your younger brother, or your younger sister. You would never set the bar that low where you're setting the bar as just flirting with the line of right and wrong. We would never set the bar that low. Essentially, what we're asking here is, how low can I go? How close to bad can I get without being bad? How close to wrong can I get without doing something wrong? If you're been going to church your whole life and you would call yourself somebody that's a follower of Jesus, how close to sin can I get without actually sinning? How close to sin can we get without actually sinning? But it doesn't stop there. Before long, we're asking, just like the speed limit, 60 to 65, how far over the line can I get without getting caught? How far over the line can I go without experiencing the consequences of what I'm doing? How unethical, how immoral, how insensitive can I be without creating unimaginable outcomes in my life? How close to that line can I get? How long can I neglect my family and prioritize things that has nothing to do with them before suffering the consequences? How long can I just disregard my finances or my health without feeling the effects of that? How much can I indulge in addictive behavior without actually becoming addicted? It's a slippery slope when we start to think about things like that. And it all begins with the wrong question. It begins with us asking, is there anything wrong with this? Which always leads to, how did I get myself into this? Is there anything wrong with what I'm doing? If there is, how did I get myself into this? Drawing our lines and setting our limits and establishing our moral and ethical standards on the borderline between right and wrong, legal and illegal, healthy and unhealthy, eliminates any margin for error in our lives. And it's a foolish and dangerous way to live. And we know it is, and it's why we respond the way we do when someone we love is making poor decisions, is snuggling up to that line closer and closer, maybe going past the line. We don't often worry about the choices they're making. We are more concerned with the direction that they are going. We're not so worried when it's our loved ones that are getting close to that line. We're not necessarily concerned just about the decisions that they're making. It's about where they're going in their life. We react to where they're heading. And in those moments, we know intuitively that the issue or the question isn't, is there anything wrong with illegal or immoral about what they're doing? There's a better question that needs to be asked because it ensures a better decision. It's a question that, if answered honestly and acted on, will ensure they avoid an avoidable regret. And if you get into the habit of asking this question, it will ensure that you avoid avoidable regrets as well. And that question is our 4th question in the series, Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets. Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets, where we are looking at the often overlooked relationship between good questions and good decisions, because the decisions that we make in life are often no better than the questions we ask before making those decisions. And in this series, I'm convinced that if you ask these 5 questions and answer them honestly, and then act upon what your answers are, you will live a life with fewer regrets. You will make better decisions, and you will have fewer regrets. Your life will be better, and the life of those who depend on you and love you, their lives will be better as well. because you know this, that we aren't the only people impacted by our decisions. We're not the only people impacted by our decisions, and we're not the only people impacted by our regrets either. If you've been tracking with us in the series, you'll know the first question we explored was the integrity question. That's the question where you got to look yourself in the mirror and ask, am I being honest with myself? But we're so good at deceiving ourselves that we got to ask it twice, and we got to say, am I being honest with myself? Really? Because you'll never get to where you are until you're honest with where you currently are. The second question was the legacy question. What story do I want to tell? What story do I want to tell? When the decisions you're in process of making right now, whether it's relational, financial, professional, is nothing more than a story you tell, well, what story do you want to tell? The good news is that you get to decide, but you decide it one decision at a time. And as far as it's up to you, you write the story of your life, one decision at a time. Last time we gathered, we talked about the conscience question. The conscience question. And the question was, is there attention that deserves my attention? When everything looks good on paper and everybody else is nodding in agreement, but there's something about it that just doesn't sit right with you, that bothers you, we talked about you got to let it bother you. Let it bother you. If you can't put your finger on it, pause and pay attention to the tension. Now, if you want sort of more information on all these concepts, we're going off of the book called Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets, written by Andy Stanley. Which brings us to our fourth question today, the maturity question. The maturity question. We call it the maturity question because asking this question requires and is evidence of somebody that has maturity. Refusing to ask this question takes us back to the statement from Proverbs that I suggested we all memorize. The prudent see danger and take refuge. So the wise, they can connect the dots between the decisions they're making, the choices they're making, and the outcomes or the future consequences. And if they see danger, they're going to take refuge and not make that decision. The unwise, though, the immoral and the naive, they see the danger and they keep going. They see the danger, the simple, and they pay the penalty. So the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple, they keep going and pay the penalty. So, what is the maturity question? The maturity question is, what is the wise thing to do? Not is this wrong? Not is, how did I get myself into this? But what is, when you're faced with any decision that has any magnitude, any consequence in your life, we got to ask, what is the wise thing to do? Not is this moral, not is this immoral, not if this is illegal or illegal, not if this is good or bad. We covered that. It's more about what is the wise thing to do. Mature people recognize, understand, and accept as fact that a decision can be both not wrong and unwise at the same time. A decision could be not wrong and unwise at the same time. Let me explain that to you. Isn't it true that your greatest regret, the moment that you regret, you would do anything to go back and relive or undo, the decision you would like to go back and unmake, the tipping point, the point of no return, that one memory that you just says, oh, I wish I could go back in time and change history. Isn't it true that your greatest regret was preceded by a series of unwise decisions? By unwise decisions. They weren't wrong, maybe they weren't illegal, but looking back, they were terribly unwise. That series of unwise decisions paved the way to the moment in time that you've regretted ever since. So to avoid 5 more minute syndrome and to create moral, ethical, and financial margin, ask of every invitation, opportunity, and option, you want to ask, what is the wise thing for me to do? What is not is this good, is this bad? What is the wise thing for me to do? The Apostle Paul, he spells this out in his letter to Christians living in Ephesus, and we call it the book of Ephesians. And what he writes goes right to the heart of the tension that we wrestle with every day. Paul writes, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. While a lot has improved since the first century, apparently human nature hasn't. Like, we're still struggling with the same things that the Christians in Ephesus were struggling with. That we be very careful, Paul is warning them, to not live unwisely. Don't snuggle up to the edge of disaster and stay there as long as possible. Be very careful with how you're living. Paul says, stop snuggling up to that line. Stop it. Be careful how you live. Don't be careless. This is the grid through which we're to evaluate every invitation and opportunity, whether it's financial, relational, professional, whatever it is, and thus our question, what is the wise thing for me to do? What is the wise thing for me to do? Paul continues with a bit more explanation here. He says, making the most of every opportunity. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity. So literally, translated from Greek, this means to redeem or ransom the time. Don't you wish you could just go back and reclaim all the time you wasted on a bad decision that just led to a regret? Along with the time spent making up for those bad decisions, don't you wish you could just reclaim that time? For you, that may be a few weeks or weekends scattered about your past, or maybe it's an entire season of your life that you had to make up for that decision. Either way, imagine having the opportunity to relive, respend, or reallocate those days, weeks, or even years. Not to mention the amount of money that you could have saved or that you could save by reliving that time. What if you had an opportunity to go back and invest that time in productive, healthy, life-giving activities? I said this in week 1, that we often say there's not enough time in our day to get everything done that we need to get done. Friends, it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of prioritizing the things that you value. It's not about how much time you have. It's about, are you prioritizing the things that you say you value? We shouldn't get to the end of the day and say, I just didn't have enough time to spend with my kids, right? I didn't have enough time to spend with my wife this week. We only saw each other a couple times. We got to rethink our values if that's the case. It's not about the 24 hours. It's about how you're spending those 24 hours and putting the boundaries in place to make sure you're protecting the things that you value. Protect the things that we value. Anyhow, Paul continues after that, and he says something that's a bit confusing. Because the days are evil. So let me just read that whole statement again. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. I mean, what does that even mean? What's Paul talking about here? Well, we don't live in a morally and ethically neutral culture, do we? When's the last time you went to drive down a highway, you saw a billboard saying McDonald's that says, don't come and eat here, it's not good for you? Right? Culture isn't going to try to get you to do the wise thing. When's the last time you went to a salesman and they says, why don't you go home and think it over before you make the purchase? Be wise. Why don't you go and talk with your wife? Right? We often don't have that morally neutral culture, right? The gravitational pull in culture is to make quick decisions. It's about them. They don't care about you or how much money you have or how much debt you have or what relational strain you have going on or how unhealthy you are or what you had. They don't care, right? So when Paul is saying the days are evil, it's the gravitational pull of our culture isn't to make you to make the best decisions you can. So we got to be careful with how we live. Careful about the decisions you're making. Not if they're good or bad. It's not illegal to go order McDonald's. Hey, I had a McDonald's coffee this morning. Hey, I had to. We don't have coffee today. But is it the wise thing to do? Okay, so back to to anchor our last question, the conscience question, with this fourth question, I want to suggest you ask this question from three perspectives. Your past, current circumstances, and your future. This is the version that can go a long way by just living it out, teaching your kids, teaching your loved ones. Here it is. In light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? In light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? You're probably familiar with the saying, those who can't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Well, on a personal level, you could say it this way. Those who don't pay attention to what got them into trouble yesterday are liable to end up in the same trouble tomorrow. Obviously, that's not as catchy, but you get the point. The point is this. Our past dictates what happens in our future. Our past dictates the decisions that are wise and unwise with us to make in our current circumstances. For specific temptations, for specific addictions and blind spots that might not be addictions, temptations, or blind spots for anybody else, your past has a part to play in the decisions that we make today. So in light of your past experiences, what is the wise thing for you to do? In light of your past experiences, whatever traumatic experiences you've gone through, whatever household you grew up in, whatever rules you had in your house, whatever it was, whatever happened to you in your past, whatever bad decisions you make in your past, they have a part to play in how the decisions you make will affect you in your current circumstances. So in light of your past experiences, what is the wise thing for you to do? Whether it's financially, professionally, relationally, where are you set up to fail because of something in your past? Perhaps it's something that you had no control over. No control over. Maybe it's something that happened to you that you couldn't control the circumstances that happened to you. In light of your past experiences, what is the wise thing to do? Not what is the get by with thing to do, not the but everybody else thing. What is the wise thing for you to do? In light of your past experiences, what is the wise thing for you to do? And then there's in light of my current circumstances, what is the wise thing for me to do? In light of my current circumstances, what is the wise thing for me to do? Right? You know this, that life is seasonal, and you owe it to yourself and the people that you love to take your current emotions and state of mind into account when making decisions. I'll explain it to you really clearly. If you go shopping when you're hungry, your current circumstances are going to affect the decisions you make at the shopping center, right? You're going to buy everything in that store if you're hungry. Oh, that just might be me. So we do online shopping, but you can still just click. But if you go to in light of your current circumstances, how you're doing right now emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever you're going through right now, we need to have the emotional awareness to make wise decisions in that moment. Have people in your life speaking into your life. Allow people that you trust to speak into your life. Because you might, depending on how you're doing right now, you might have blind spots. You might have blind spots going up all over the place, and it would be terrible to make a bad decision based off those blind spots. In light of your current circumstances, what is the wise thing for you to do? Maybe you just got out of a long-term relationship. It's okay to go and start a relationship right away, but is that the wise thing for you to do? Is that the wise thing for you to do? In light of my current circumstances, what is the wise thing to do? And then that brings us to the final one. In light of your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for you to do? What is the wise thing to do? From time to time, I'll ask things like, what breaks your heart? You know the song, Hosanna, break my heart, for what breaks yours? What are the things, what is your holy discontent in this world? What are the things that break your heart? Things that might break my heart are people making decisions that undermine their future. It breaks my heart to watch individuals or couple make relationship decisions that will undermine their relationships. It breaks my heart to watch teenagers make decisions that will result in consequences that will follow them around for the next decade or two. Breaks my heart to watch parents parent in a way that will eventually drive a wedge between them and their children. It breaks my heart to watch people engineer their unhappiness. Unhappiness. Perhaps that's why I'm convinced that this third application of our fourth question is the most important application. In light of your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for you to do? Chances are you have a picture of what you want your future to be. You have a future of what you want your next 5 to 10 years to be. Chances are you know that in 10 years you want to be somewhere financially. You want to be somewhere relationally. Maybe you want to be married in 10 years. Well, what decisions relationally are you making now to make that a reality and not to undermine that relationship in the future? Because you know this, that the decisions you make have an implication for the future. It's not enough to intend a healthy marriage in the future. You need to decide your way to a healthy marriage in the future. It's not enough to intend to have a healthy relationship with your kids in the future. You need to make decisions based off what you value to have a healthy relationship with your kids in the future. It's not enough just to have this picture of the future. It's not going to happen unless you make it happen, unless you decide your way to make it happen. We all have somewhere we want to be in the future. Wouldn't it be great if you got there on purpose, or if you got to that destination on purpose? Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave your marriage to chance. I'm sure everyone married here wants to be able to be with their spouse for the long haul, to see their grandchildren one day and be that family unit. The decisions that you make right now relationally are going to have implications in the future. And so, in light of your future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing for you to do? In light of your future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing for you to do? Here's the challenge, though. When it comes to your dreams, the deck, unfortunately, is stacked against you. Right? Life is typically hard on dreams. There's always a headwind when it comes to your dreams. So if you're not careful, you'll contribute to the demise of what you hope for. Don't rob yourself of your own future. Nobody plans to undermine their own future. They just don't plan not to. Asking, answering, and acting on the wisdom question is how you plan not to. In light of your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for you to do? Asking this question right with the future in mind brings clarity to the options we're considering. It serves as a purifying light and clears out the fog that's making it hard to make those decisions. Our best option or options become clear, even painfully clear. They become so clear that we're tempted to look away or to make excuses because we don't really want to make. You might say things like, but I'm not hurting anybody. I can handle it. There's no law against it. God will forgive me. We excuse our way of the preferred destination. Our excuses are persuasive because they're mostly true. You aren't doing anything. You're not hurting any wrong. And you are not hurting anyone yet. You can handle it for now. There is no law against it. And yeah, God will forgive you. But so what? That's all besides the point, right? The purpose of our fourth question isn't to stop you from doing something wrong. It's to keep you from doing something unwise. Again, unwise is a gateway. It's a gateway to regret. It paves the way to the tipping point, and in some cases, the point of no return. Would you be willing to put your old worn out excuses, put them away once and for all? Because they've never served you well anyway. They just silence your conscience. They just suppress your conscience. They cloud your reasoning and diminish your ability to hear the voices of wisdom around you. Your excuses are going to put those walls up. They're going to make you deaf to people that are wise around you. Our excuses, they escort us to the threshold of regret. That's all they do. We don't need to be making excuses. They abandon us there with no margin with error. They abandoned us at the threshold of regret with no margin for error. You've been there. And I'm sure we don't want to go back there ever again. So decide to be done with those excuses. Instead of excusing yourself forward, let's dream and plan our way forward. Ask, in light of my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? In light of where you want to be financially 5 to 10 years from now, what's the wise thing for you to do now? You're going to be somewhere financially in 5 to 10 years from now, so shouldn't you decide? Here's something that we could put to memory that's pretty catchy. There's good and there's bad, but that's not my cue, but rather, what is the wise thing to do? There's good and there's bad. That shouldn't be our cue on our decision. What's the wise thing to do? Let's not just set the bar so low like I talked about at the beginning. Don't settle for good. Don't settle for legal. Don't settle for permissible. Don't settle for acceptable. Don't settle for tolerable. Because if you do, you'll find yourself snuggling up to the border of right and wrong, legal and illegal, responsible and irresponsible, and you'll be getting so close to decisions that will lead you to regret. And we know that you are better than that. You deserve better than that. Your family deserves better than that. Your kids deserve better than that. Don't set the bar low for you and your family. Let's be wise that can then make decisions based off of what is wise. And we can connect the dots between now and the future. So, ask it. Even if you don't plan to act on it. What is the wise thing for me to do? What is the wise thing for me to do? You owe it to yourself to know. You owe it to the people depending on you to know as well. So one last time, in light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? Let's set a higher standard. Let's set a higher standard than just the bare minimum. Because when you're bare minimum, there's a lot more ground to make up to get to the higher standard than there is to get below the bar. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. God, it's amazing that you are one that can give us wisdom. God, we want to lean into that wisdom from you, God. So whenever we're making any sort of decision, just remind us to pause, to not fall for the sales associate in our head that wants to make decisions quick right here, right now, God. Let us never forget who you are in our life, that you are the decision maker, that you are the creator of the heavens and the earth, and you created us in your image. God, help us to make decisions that will help us be good image bearers of you in Townsville. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.